my name is Andrew Syrick, and I'm a Senior Healthcare Data Analyst with the Superior Health Quality Alliance, and today we'll be doing a KeyMetrics overview. First, I just want to mention a few housekeeping rules. Please mute your microphone to reduce background noise. We're going to be recording this session that'll be used later for future trainings. Please send any questions in the chat window, and we'll be able to address those throughout the presentation. There will also be a 10-minute interactive Q&A session at the end. And lastly, if you do happen to experience any technical difficulties, please use the chat window and a staff member will assist you. Today for this training, you're going to learn how to set up an account and how to access KeyMetrics, enter data for the scope of work, and locate and use educational tools inside the system. Now we will be transitioning over to a live walkthrough of the site so we can show you the different pieces of the system. Okay. So I provided the link to the website in the chat window, and this is where you'll end up on the home page here. So the first thing that users need to understand is how to actually request access to KeyMetrics. So once you go to the main login page, you'll see down here at the bottom there is a request access link. So I'm going to go ahead and click that. It's going to ask for your email, so you'll go ahead and enter that information. And then hit next. Now it's going to bring you to the request access window where it's going to ask for some additional prompts that are needed to set up an account. So first, you're going to go ahead and enter your information. You'll need to enter a password. Now, I do want to mention that the password can be kind of tricky, so we actually suggest using a passphrase. There are no specific requirements like some other systems have had in the past, so if you'll notice that as I continue to type and add text, my password string gets stronger. And we just, again, mentioned using a passphrase because you'll want to make sure you have enough characters so the password is strong enough. You'll enter that same password in here. And then as you scroll down, you'll notice you'll need to select your managing organization. And in this case, it'll be Superior Health. And then you're going to request access to the Quality Innovation Network Quality Improvement Organization project. And this will ensure that you have access to all the appropriate surveys inside of KeyMetrics so you can enter your data. You're also going to want to specify what facility you will need access to. So make sure you're entering your nursing home or community coalition information here. You also want to include your job title and then a phone number. Now, one thing I do want to mention is the password you enter will not have to be changed in the future. And because of that, we have what's called two-factor authentication. So when you initially log into your account, it's going to ask for you to enter a code. And you can choose to have that code sent to a cell phone to receive a text, or you may choose to have that sent to an email address. And once you're done completing that information, you'll go ahead and hit next. So now my account's been approved. I've received that information via email saying I've been added to the system. So I'm going to come back here to the login page, enter my credentials, and then I'm going to go ahead and hit next. So as I mentioned earlier, it's going to ask for that verification code as part of our two-factor authentication. So I'll go ahead and enter the code and hit submit. And it's going to take me out to the main homepage here. So the homepage is always where all of your surveys will be listed. And what I'm going to start with is walking through some of the various pieces of the homepage here. So at the top, you'll notice we have Surveys tab, which is the current page we are on. There's also a Reports tab, Education, and Resources. And we'll touch on those here in a moment. On the far right, you'll also see you have the ability to select your account, which you can look at your profile, the entities that you have access to, and then any notifications that may be sent through the system. As we look down the page a little more, you'll see that there are several drop-down menus here. So the drop-down menus allow you to select various entities that you may have access to. Some individuals may only have one facility that they need to enter data for. Other individuals may have access more at a system level, so they're entering data for multiple facilities. So this just allows you to filter based on the access that you have in the system. You also have the ability to filter by project. So in this case, all of you will have access to the QIN-QIO project, and that's the only one that's going to be listed here for now. And then you can also filter by survey. So all the surveys that you'll have access to will be listed here, and then you can filter down to a specific one. And then over here, we have a data status. Now, the way the system is set up is it's always going to be defaulted to what you need to enter data for. So that way, you're only getting access into what you need to submit. Now, you do have the ability to change this to all so that you can go back and look at previous submissions that have been completed. So in that case, you can go ahead and fill out the prompts. So I'm going to look at our test site here, Midwest Superior Care Center. So I know I need to look at that. In this case, I want to look at Goal 3, cardiovascular disease. And then just because I'm going to make sure that I look at all submissions, not just any that are incomplete. And I'll go ahead and hit search. So you can see what that's done is it's filtered down to the parameters that I've set. Now you'll notice here that I can see Midwest Superior Care Center. If I had multiple organizations, I would see those listed beneath this. So all of them would be included here for this particular survey. So I'm going to go ahead and open this up because now I want to actually do some data entry. So you can see that this particular survey is set up by month. So I have all of my months listed out here. And I want to talk a little bit about the different headers you're seeing on this page. So first, the period will be however frequent this survey needs to be filled out. So for example, this happens to be monthly. So we'll see all those months listed. We've also included a completed field column here that just tells you out of the total fields that are required, how many of those are completed. This gives you the remaining fields. And then there's also a status column. So the status column, you'll see two different indicators here. So one is going to be a due date and another one is a lock date. So the system allows us to set due dates to help users understand when information is due. And then after that, there will be a lock date. So over time, you may see that a due date is established. Once that due date passes, that data will be open and available to edit for a certain period of time, and then it will lock, and you will no longer be able to edit or manipulate that data. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go into one of these months now, so you can see what it looks like to actually complete one of the surveys. To do this, I'm going to click Edit here on the left, and it's going to bring me into the survey itself. So the way the survey is laid out is you'll see the survey name here at the top. It will show you the submission period and then the entity that you're entering the data for. So this is just a nice verification check to make sure that you are looking at the right information and entering that into the correct month and facility. So then you'll notice here that the measures are laid out in order that we have in the encyclopedia of measures. So I just want to point out too, within the survey, there are the required fields, as we mentioned. So you'll notice that any required field will have this asterisk here next to it. And that's what actually populates those completed and required fields out on the summary page. For each measure, you'll have the box to enter the data, but there's also sometimes a little hint here at the bottom. So this just gives more information about what is specifically being entered into this particular measure. So I'm going to go ahead and populate some numbers in here so I can show you guys kind of what it looks like to fill this out. Now, one thing to note, and it does tell you here on this page, the calculations will take place after the survey has been saved. So you'll save the survey and then you can come back in and look at those numbers. So I'm only going to fill out a couple of these, but as you see, as you continue to scroll down, there are additional required fields here. So I'm going to scroll to the bottom and I'm going to submit survey, and this is what saves your answers. So what it's going to do is it's going to bring me back out to the main survey page here. I can go ahead and click my facility again. And now you can see that I've completed 5 of the 11 fields. So it's telling me that I still have 6 to fill out for this particular month. So I can go back in and click edit on that and then review the submissions. So you can see now that after I've added in some of the measure information for these, the calculated field is now completed based on the numerator and denominator information that I supplied previously. So again, as I look down this, I can see that I've filled these out. And then let's say maybe I was waiting on some additional information. I can now go and add that. So maybe now I know that I've got 100 out of 200 of these completed for this particular measure. And then again, I can go ahead and click submit here at the bottom. And now we see that that is updated out here on the main page. So I've now completed 7 of the 11 fields. So it's just a nice way that you have a quick glance at being able to see how much data you've submitted for a particular period. So that's how you'll actually do the data entry itself by particular period. We do also have the ability to do a bulk edit. So this actually allows a user to go in and add data for multiple months at once for all of the measures that are applicable to that survey. So you can see I was entering data in October 2020, but there's also information here in September and August. And then I can go back and add data here as well. And that will populate at the bottom to give the totals and calculate those calculated fields for us. So that's just another way that you can look at for an individual facility if you happen to need to go in and add multiple months worth of data instead of clicking that individual period. It's just an easier way here. So you can scroll down to look at all the individual measures themselves. Then you can also use the arrow keys to scroll over and look at the remaining months that still need data to submit. And then the same process here. They'll go ahead and scroll down to the bottom once you've entered those data points, and you will go ahead and submit survey. And then that's going to bring you back out to the main survey page. And now I can see in July I've completed 2 of the 11 fields. So I just want to take a moment to pause to see if there are any questions about the data entry itself. It doesn't look like we have any questions in the chat window. Okay, great. Well, I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the other resources that are here inside of KeyMetrics. So we have an education tab here at the top. And this is where you're going to find additional videos and training manuals about data entry and how to use the different functions inside of KeyMetrics. So we actually have a previously recorded webinar that's here that you can reference if you have questions. And there's also a training manual here that you can click into that just gives you written information and step-by-step processes on how to add data and navigate the site. We also have a resources page, and the resources page will be very helpful for individuals who are entering data. So you can see that we have encyclopedia of measurement documents here, and all of these are broken out by the various goals for the project. And then at the top here, we have some more specific documents. So we have a clinic measure, specific nursing home, and then there's also an opioid ones, which is for some of our community coalition groups. So I'm just going to go ahead and click into a couple of these just to show you. The nice thing is they're already inside of KeyMetrics, so you don't need to download the information. You can see that everything is laid out pretty easily. At the top here, you'll have some information, and then as you scroll down, it'll give you measure-specific information. Now, if you do want the ability to download a copy of this, you can go ahead and download that here. And once you finish reviewing the information, you can use the back button at the top of the page to go back into KeyMetrics. I'm also going to click in here to one of the encyclopedia measurement documents too. So again, very similar layout. You'll see that it's got a table of contents here at the top with the various measures. I can go ahead and click these to bring me down to the section itself. And then it's going to explain to me what the numerators and denominators are for the various measures so that I can see that information. Now, one thing inside of those documents, you can see that the measures are laid out by a numerical format. So you can see that that document actually had 1.1.1. So that correlates to inside of the surveys, the various measures that we're collecting for the data. So if I had clicked into goal 3, I would see that for this particular survey, 3.1 and 3.2 measures correlate with this data entry. So we tried to help make that easy for you guys so that when you have questions about the measures themselves, you can understand how the surveys correlate to the encyclopedia measure documents. Now, currently, we don't have any reports in the system. In the near future, after we have some data to work off, we'll be developing some Tableau reports that will be embedded inside of KeyMetrics. So once those are available here, under the Reports tab, you'll see that there will be a report dashboard. And you'll actually be able to go ahead and click the dashboard link here, and it will take you to that page. Now, as I mentioned, that's still being developed. So that'll be something we'll have in the near future. And we'll be sure to notify all participants once a dashboard is available. So that covers everything we're thinking of for training today. You saw how to request access to the site, how to access the site, how to enter data for the various measures that are being collected for the scope of work. And then again, where to access the various resources, such as the educational tools and the resources that contain the encyclopedia of measure documents.